What's that big shiny thing in the sky?
I'm not sure what that is. I'm sure the snow is coming.
Typically when we're shooting with Jill, it's a total blizzard, and that would have been a great time to test these two cars, which are capable four-wheel drive crossovers.
What we have here are two vehicles, top of the line in each one. We have the Subaru Crosstrek and the Mitsubishi RVR. And in both cases, we have the top of the line trim level. For the Crosstrek, we have the limited with eyesight.
The Mitsubishi is also the top of the line. It's the GT all-wheel drive, or as Mitsubishi calls it, all-wheel control. And this is actually going to be a pretty close race. I mean, these cars, they have pretty much the same as tested price. They're within $103 as tested.
They're both top of the line trim. They both have 4-cylinder engines.
You've got a 2-liter, I have a 2.4-liter. We both have CVT transmissions, and we both have all-wheel drive systems, although as we'll get into a little later, they're a little different in how they function.
We're going to take them out and drive them, but we're also going to spend a lot of time in the interior looking at the things that are important to buyers in this segment.
Let's go find out which one of these is the better winter warrior.
Let's do it.
I'll start with the Mitsubishi.
So here we are, we're in the Mitsubishi RVR, and we have the top-of-the-line GT all-wheel drive. It will bring in the rear wheels as needed for traction. You can also lock it for getting out of, let's say, deep snow or mud.
We did have quite a bit of snow on the week we had these cars. How did you find it worked?
It actually works very well. It got me where I was going through the snow. Of course, we have good winter tires as well, and that's important. I really don't see it as being inferior to the Subaru system that runs all the time.
It's just a little different, and you better make sure you remember to press the button if you're going through some tough stuff.
Now, the one thing with keeping it in front-wheel drive is that normally you get better fuel economy with that. But this is a thirstier vehicle.
It does have a bigger engine, 2.4 liters versus the Subaru's 2.0, and it does make a little bit more power. It's not a huge difference that you're going to feel behind the wheel, but it's a really big fuel economy difference.
When you're in a vehicle like this, fuel economy is a major factor.
You know what else is a major factor is backseat comfort in a vehicle like this. These are not long sedans, of course. There's going to be some compromises in seating room. However, I stand a towering 5'8", and I could not fit in the back seat without my head scrunched into the ceiling.
I find this to be a noisier vehicle. I'm hearing a lot of bumps, I'm hearing a lot of road noise. It's almost a little echoey and tinny inside.
And it just generally seems, I don't know what to say, a less insulated vehicle than the Subaru. I find that just driving along, it is a bit noisier inside. I'm listening to music a little louder than I have to in the Subaru. So the interior is basic, which has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that all this is knob-based, which I love. I have a volume knob, a tuning knob, it's a knob for temperature and for blower settings. But what's some of the downsides of having such a basic interior? Well,
it does look basic, and if we were in the base model, that'd be one thing, but we're in a model that's pushing $34,000. There's a lot of black plastic. It could look a little bit better.
We have this nice panoramic sunroof, which kind of helps it feel a bit more airy, but it's just a sea of black in here.
It's very dark. The one thing I might have done is put that four-wheel drive button somewhere else, because it's in the middle of the console, nothing else is there. That's a place that we could have put even more stuff.
This is a very basic multimedia system.
It doesn't feel like a new model. It feels like something that's been around for a while, even though we're driving a 2020.
And I think honestly at this price point, lacking navigation on the fully loaded model, that's a miss.
That is a miss. So now we've been in the Mitsubishi, let's go drive the Subaru.
And now we are in the Subaru Crosstrek Limited with Eyesight.
And Eyesight is a camera that's over the windshield, and what it's doing is it's looking forward and activating such things as the active cruise control, the emergency braking, and other safety technologies.
Well, that's one of the interesting things, that this car has active cruise control. So, of course, you can set it at 60 and it'll ride up against a car doing 55 and you're okay. Whereas the Mitsubishi does not. And the other thing is I love that we have nav.
However, One thing I don't like about this screen is that if the sun is behind you, the glare on it is bad enough that you can't see.
On the positive side, I love that we have hard buttons again for all of our commonly used functions.
Large knobs, push buttons, everything's easy to use.
The other thing I'd like to point out is that this cabin is just generally really nice. I like this contrasting orange stitching they have throughout the cabin. There's little bits of aluminum bright work.
It really breaks everything up, and I think it looks really good. It looks closer to the price that you're paying for this vehicle.
Yes, it's a very attractive interior, and I also like that they've chosen to use a lighter color on the top half of the interior of the headliner. It's just feels a bit more spacious, and I think the dimensions back that up. This car is a little bit wider.
It is, but I will say this, I think the Mitsubishi seats are more comfortable than this. I find this just a little bit hard and not quite as supportive on my back.
I think the seats in the Subaru are more comfortable, but that's kind of a personal preference. Everyone's shaped a different way. I think the one thing we can both agree on is that the back seats of the Subaru are far more comfortable.
They are more comfortable in terms of how much room you have, how much headroom you have. Now, one thing about the driving in this is, as we pointed out, neither of them are real power horses.
No.
But at the same time, when you take off in the Subaru, I find that the throttle really jumps ahead.
Just driving around town, you think, wow, this thing's got some real pep. And it's positive from that angle, but the downside is that it means you kind of leave a lot of intersections like, and in other regards, the Subaru is very smooth. It's quieter than the Mitsubishi. We're driving over these bumps and you don't hear or feel them as much as you do in the Mitsubishi. It just feels like a better insulated car all around.
It does. And then we can talk about the all-wheel drive system, which, unlike the Mitsubishi, is on all the time. 60% of power is always going to the front wheels, 40% to the rear.
Exactly. So you hypothetically would take a fuel economy hit for that, as you said, in the Mitsubishi, but this one gets pretty good mileage.
This one actually gets very good mileage. Now, as far as cargo volume goes, the Subaru has more cargo volume than the Mitsubishi does, and then the Subaru has even more space when you put the back seats down. But I will say this, they all fold flat.
All right, well, now we've driven both cars. I think it's time for us to stand out there in the cold and weigh the pros and cons of each and find a winner.
You think so?
What, you got a better idea?
I sure do.
Sure is cold out there.
Oh, it's awful.
So, do you think we've reached a conclusion between our two SUVs?
I think we have.
We still have a pretty close race on our hands because they both started out at about the same price. These cars both have about $10,000 in options if you think about it. Both these cars have a base price of $22,000, $24,000 or so. Both cars pretty close in terms of, power.
Really, for a commuter vehicle, you're not going to really notice a big difference.
I think the biggest place in which these two cars stand apart is the interior accoutrement.
I think that the Subaru looks better inside. It has adaptive cruise control. It also has navigation, which the Mitsubishi does not have.
These are all things that I really think people are going to want and expect at $35,000. And I think the other thing is that you like the seats of the Mitsubishi better. I prefer the Subaru, but we both realize that there's more rear seat room in the Subaru. I think if you add it all up, you have a quieter overall driving experience. You have more interior amenities in terms of navigation. It's a nicer interior and you have more room in the back seat. I think I have to give my vote to the Subaru.
And overall, I think I have to give my vote to the Subaru as well. And that's the one that we're crowning in this particular competition. For Driving.ca, he's Clayton Seams.
And she's Jill McIntosh. And don't forget to tell us in the comments what we should compare next.
Cheers.
Cheers. Maybe we should compare hot chocolate to tea next time.
Ooh, there's a thought.